One of the biggest studies we've done since we launched was around student loans. There was no alternative student finance option for Muslims that didn't want to take a student loan that contained interest. And David Cameron promised that this student loan alternative will be provided in 2013 and just went silent on it. And then a report that came out in 2019 said, oh, Muslims don't care about it. So we then launched our own study. We gained 40,000 responses from Muslims in this country. And we found that 4,000 Muslims per year don't go to university purely because of the loan. And then there's a further 6,000 that self-finance. So they go to university, but they self-finance because they don't want to take the loan.
And it's what, 30 grand at least they're paying. Today's special guest, we have the co-founder of Muslim Census, Sadiq Dorasat. Welcome to I Love Monday podcast.
Thank you for having me, man.
Guys, before we start grilling him, let's like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Right, Sadiq, tell us about your journey.
Where do I start?
The moment you were born.
Okay. So yeah, I was born in London. Actually, the place where I recently moved from. So I lived in the same place for 27 years in Hackney. To Bengali parents. Both my parents were born here, although my dad did grow up in Bangladesh and then moved back in his early teens. So I think 14, 15, he moved back to the UK to do his GCSEs, etc. Mum grew up here, and I've got one older sister and a younger brother as well.
Middle child syndrome.
Middle child, exactly that.
How was Hackney growing up? Because Hackney was just known to be a rough area.
You know what it is? When I say I'm from Hackney now, I get, ooh, that's a nice area. Yeah. That's quite trendy, hip. But yeah, when I was growing up, it definitely wasn't. It's definitely what made me who I am as well. Not only the fact that it was a very diverse area, so very different to growing up in Tower Hamlets, for example, where schools I've seen that are majority South Asian. My school, I was one of 2 or 3 South Asians. So that experience of experiencing, multiple different cultures, multiple different, ways of life, experiences, added to who I am as well.
When I was younger, Hackney was that place that you didn't visit because you'll get robbed. Now it's that place you go when you want to see £1 million houses.
Yeah.
So it's completely changed. And actually, when I was in secondary school at St. Bon's, and my head teacher was Sir Michael Wilshaw, and when I was in year 9, he left to go Mossbourne Academy in Hackney.
Mossbourne was very strict, very strict.
Yeah.
So that was when academies started popping up everywhere. So even in Hackney, I went Bridge Academy. So again, another academy. There was Petchy, Mossbourne. So there's a lot of investment into trying to improve the area. And I think I fell in at the right time. So when I joined my secondary school, I was the first year 7. And I was the oldest as well, because of September 1st. So I was the eldest throughout the whole cohort.
You pulled rank.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever have getting into gangs or that temptation? Because even here in Newham now is probably what Hackney was before. And there's a lot of kids who get into gangs or get into trouble, and some stay in there for the long term, some get out at the right time. Did you ever have that?
So I had exposure to it all, of course. It was at my doorstep. And one thing, I was, if you might find it hard to believe, quite good at football when I was younger. So I used to play football with everyone, and the majority of the people that I played football with were affiliated with a gang or whatever you call it. And of course, you get exposed to different things. But I, for the most part, kept my nose clean and out of everything. You know, I knew where my line was, and of course, I had my parents there as well to make sure that I knew where the line was. And yeah, we kind of maintained that protection and distance from it all.
No, that's good. And then what did you do after school finished?
Yeah, no, so to be honest, I knew as soon as I started year 7, year 8, so around the ages of 12, 13, I was good at maths. I was really good with numbers. I would get top marks in school without really trying that much. I used to be a nuisance in class.
How did you get good at maths?
How? I don't know. So, sometimes I genuinely believe it could be, you know, like genetic, or
Yeah.
some people are just good at certain things without necessarily trying. And maths was something that would click for me. Like, I didn't spend extra time on it growing up, but, you know, I did my GCSEs early, got an A star, got full marks in a lot of the exams as well. And I was quite bad in my maths class because I knew everything. I made sure like I disrupted as much as possible, and then had that kind of layer of security of, but I've got it. You know, I've got that. So yeah, that was, yeah. So I knew I was going to do maths at university. Like, I just knew it. Although there was a stint that I thought I wanted to get into politics, which was scary, because if I went down that path, I would have been very different. I even did my like work experience in the House of Commons.
You're always in House of Commons now.
You know, it's I keep getting invited, man. So I'll go down. But yeah, like, I was quite heavily involved in my local, like, with when it comes to like the councillor. I used to like try and do certain initiatives, do certain charity work, and I thought, oh, I think I want to do politics because I want to make a change, etc., etc. But then I did my work experience and I said, nah, this ain't it.
Why did you not pursue politics?
From that work experience, I realized that's not where actual change happens. It's more, I want to be on the ground, actually speaking to people, helping people, rather than behind.
Not taking backhanders. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, like behind, you know, like a fancy building, working on reports and docs. I can do that for any normal day job, but outside of work, what can I do that gives me that kind of impact?
When you wanted to pursue politics, what did you want to change? Like, what impact did you want to have?
Yeah, again, it was for at the time I wasn't as strongly aligned to like my Muslim identity as I am now, but I was strongly aligned to the community. Again, growing up in Hackney, I saw what was happening in my area in terms of gentrification in my like early teens, like 15, 16 as well. And I saw people that were my neighbors be priced out of my area. And I also saw my friends, and when I was with them, myself as well, get targeted by whether that be security or police or all of these different things. And we all came from very similar upbringings, you know, council houses. We were all, you know, on free school meals and didn't have certain luxuries in life. So I kind of had that real zeal and passion to be like, okay, how can I help my community and use anything that I can to improve that kind of life for us all.
Yeah, it's a good initiative. I think it's needed, and I think a lot of people do get into politics or fields that like community work, just so they help their people basically, or they help their community.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you studied maths at
uni.
Yeah.
So then what I found out is, no, let me just do what I'm actually good at.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't write an essay to save my life. Like, I somehow managed to scrape past my English GCSE. It wasn't my strong subject. So I wanted to do maths, and also I felt like that would open more opportunities for me if I wanted to do, you know, whether that be working in banking or in audit, financial services, which was like, again, another appealing career path.
Yeah. And then what was your first job?
So I worked at a bank. No, to be fair, no, that wasn't my first job. My first job was at Subway. My first job, I was 15 or 16. I'm gonna say 16 because that's legal, right?
Yeah, I think.
16, at my first job, I worked at Subway. Then I worked in the London 2012 Olympics.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
G4S?
No, man, I wasn't security. I was, I worked in like a superstore in retail.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I worked retail throughout uni. But my first proper job that I took seriously as my career path, I joined the graduate scheme at HSBC in wealth and personal banking.
How was that? Were you just exposed to a different world?
Completely different, man. Completely different. Like, imagine I didn't even know how to use a knife and fork properly. So when I was going out to like client dinners and I was looking at dishes that I had no idea what it was, no idea how to eat it, and I didn't even know how to use it.
She just went rogue and started
Cutlery.
munching with your hand.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Honestly, like I saw someone have chicken wings with a knife and fork.
How'd you do that?
I saw it. I said, I'm in a different place. I'm in a different place. But yeah, it's definitely took some getting used to. Even how I would be very conscious of the way I spoke, because growing up in Hackney, I had a definite, East London slang, even Cockney rhyming slang. I used to use a lot of innits, and then was very self-conscious of the fact that I needed to speak proper.
When you were at HSBC, what kind of clients were you wining and dining, should we say?
Yeah, so I was a wealth and asset management analyst for my first 6 months. And a lot of that was essentially similar to being like a relationship manager, so dealing with like high net worth. And of course that came with like entering a completely different world, being invited to like client dinners, visiting clients in their offices, seeing, success, and a success that was very foreign to anything that I've ever seen. So it was definitely like an eye-opening.
What kind of success was it?
Yeah, people that were running their own businesses, people that were very financially savvy, that knew what they were doing with their money. And I was more learning from them. I was there as the person that was trying to support them and protect their money, but really and truly, I was the one learning.
So at that time, did you think that what they had, you'd never be able to achieve it?
It definitely did feel like very distant. But no, I never thought this is something that I could never achieve. No.
So you had the mindset of being able to achieve big things.
Yeah, I think I was very, and I still think I am, very naive in the fact that I think I can do anything if I really wanted to.
I don't think that's naive.
Yeah. So like my PE teacher always used to tell me, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And he'd only say it to me when I stepped over the line. But I'm a firm believer of you have to be confident that you can achieve what is within your reach, and if it's not within your reach, how do you break that? How do you get past it and unlock doors to unlock future potential as well?
I think you have to have that mindset of I can do it rather than I can't do it. Because as soon as you say I can do it to your brain starts thinking, you know what, how can I do it?
Yeah.
And then you start setting them goals and say, you know what, I can start my own business, I can have my X amount of turnover, etc. But if you ever can't do it, your brain's going to shut it down, and then it gives you reasons why you can't do it.
Yeah, it's very like interesting that the less you know about something, the more you think you can do it.
What do you mean?
So, the more you overthink, the more you start thinking of all the different risks associated, the more likely you will never do it. Because you know too much about it, that it's the possibility of it all going wrong is too real in your
Yeah.
head. Sometimes, or majority of the times, I believe, you know a little bit about it, and you start. And you start with that naivety of, yeah, I can do this. Because the more you know, the older you get, like the less risks you take. Like traditionally,
Yeah.
right? The young people, like younger, they take more risks because they just don't even know anything. Like people, I might look at a 21-year-old now, saying this, I'm not that old, but I'll look at a 21-year-old with so much zeal and passion, like, he doesn't know what he's in for, right? But he's gonna do, or he or she's gonna do a lot just because they're gonna think anything's possible.
But as you get older, you have that fear behind you as well, because you've taken a risk and you failed.
Yeah.
So it's like, can't do it again. And it creates that barrier in your mind.
It just depends on how you fail as well.
Yeah.
You can fail successfully because you learn from it, you iterate, and you go again, and you're so much better when you go again. And I've done that a few times. You know, I've launched ideas where it hasn't gone to plan.
Oh, give us some ideas that haven't gone to plan.
It hasn't gone to plan. So I started a YouTube channel when I was younger, and I started a podcast when I was younger. And both, the YouTube channel, complete flop. Like
Don't you have like over 1,000 subs?
on YouTube, I think inshallah, I want to start, God willing, I want to start a YouTube channel. But I think I've got 200 subs, but no videos. I just tweeted out, oh, I'm thinking to start YouTube. And lots of people like subscribe.
That's quite good. We don't have 200 subs right now.
You will do after this. No,
Yeah, hopefully.
So what I was saying is, the more, like, if you fail, but you actually try to do something, you will have learned so much from it, and you will have gained exposure from it as well. So the podcast I started did relatively well. The way I failed from it is I just managed it completely wrong and lost track of time, was really bad with uploading. But we gained, over 40,000 listens.
That's good.
And that actually was the platform to gaining a very small following on social media that supports a lot of the work that I want to do in the future, and has kickstarted the organization that I run as well. So
The Muslim Census.
Yes.
So we'll speak about that a bit later on.
yeah.
What did you learn from not failing? I wouldn't say you failed, because I think you still got plans, but what did you learn from this YouTube channel and podcast that hasn't yet kicked on?
Yeah. So one thing I learned, and probably is still holding me back, is, this fear of, they call it the spotlight effect. You feel like everyone's looking at you and laughing,
Yeah.
right? Whereas really and truly, that's not the case. No one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Like, they might, if it's a close friend and what you're doing is something that you really feel passionate about and could benefit you, if they laugh at it, that's not a friend.
Yeah.
That's not a friend. They might take the mick a little bit and like to, as friends
Yeah.
do, but if they laugh at the actual intention of what you're doing, that's not a good friend. And you learn that. You learn who are good friends and who are people that are just here for a laugh.
You sound like you've lost friends.
No, not lost friends per se. It's more focused on the friends that are
Supported
really
you all the
there
way.
and are really supportive. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because even Ish, when we did the podcast with him, he said they are fake friends, and he struggles to actually notice. But he's got people around him who tell him, no, this person's either trying to, or is in it for their benefit, or it's just going to basically mock you.
Yeah.
Or they don't support you. Or there's a lot of little different factors.
Yeah. I've when you launch something, if they don't support you, I don't take that to heart.
Yeah.
Because it might just not interest them.
Yeah.
And that's fair enough. And I'm friends with people that have never taken a survey of Muslim Census. Like, they're my close friends. And that's fine. But I think there's a difference between not supporting but mocking, you know? Mocking is something very different.
Okay. Going back to HSBC, how long were you there for?
I was there joined in 2018 and left 2021, so 3 years.
Is that when you got into tech, or did you get into tech at HSBC?
I got into tech at HSBC.
No previous experience?
No previous experience.
How did you do that? Because so many people are getting into tech.
Yeah.
And it is a good field to get into, of course, but how is someone without experience getting into tech, and now you're at Wahid Investment, where you're their product manager? So what was your journey?
Yeah. So, like I said, I did that first role as a wealth and asset management analyst. How a graduate scheme works is you do 6-month placements. So I did the first 6 months and was 3 months into my second one, and I was working more in like tax and risk. And I realized this is not what I want to do. I don't want to work in core financial services, whether that be in banking or audit or tax. It wasn't for me. 2 reasons. I didn't actually enjoy it. And second, as a Muslim, I did not want to deal in facilitating what happens in the banking industry. So they were like 2 strong reasons for me. And then it was about exploring.
What does happen in the banking industry that didn't agree with your identity?
Yeah, so again, I was a relationship manager. I was dealing with high net worth individuals, and the lifestyle that was there made it very difficult. I actually got in trouble once for not going to client meetings and client dinners. I say dinners loosely, client parties.
Events.
Client events, that's a better word. Because I didn't want to go because it wasn't for me. And I got in trouble for not engaging, for not building a relationship, etc., etc. And that's where I realized, okay, I need to really like move away from this space that is very like sales driven, very client facing. And that was kind of like the big reason for why.
Was it easy to move into tech?
So what I did was, at the time, I knew I was at HSBC and I wanted to finish the graduate scheme there. So I still had a year there. And the conversation was always, from what I heard from like other areas at the bank, was how do we compete with fintech? How do we compete with Monzo, Starling, Revolut? And I was using Monzo. Like that was my primary bank account. So I knew about this kind of challenge and this competitor. I wanted to be in that space. How do I help a traditional legacy bank compete with the amount of resources that they have? So I went on our global directory, and I'm sure every company has this, and I just started searching tech, I started searching business analyst, I started searching product manager, and any person that came up, I started putting in session calls with, shooting cold emails. Hey, I'm on the graduate scheme. I'm doing this at the moment. I have experience in like I've seen, the selling of products on the front end. I can speak about what's wrong. I can speak about this. Like I had no digital, no tech experience at all. I was just trying to leverage the experience that I did have. And then I actually did have a meeting with a product manager. And it was the first time I even knew like what a product manager was.
What is a product manager? Because even I still don't know what it is.
So a product manager essentially looks after a digital product that is either front-facing to a customer or internally to the business. But it's mainly a digital or tech platform. So let's say I'm the product manager, which I was at HSBC, of current accounts. So I would look after I had a small segment looking after the onboarding experience. So as a customer, you go online and you apply for a current account,
Yeah.
I would look after that experience. What text you see, the designs, how it feels, how long it takes in the back end, how it connects with our engineers and our developers and our designers. I would be the middleman of all of that, speaking to customers. Oh, what's your pain points? What do you find really difficult with onboarding? Okay, let's make that journey online a lot more seamless. And then speaking to the business, okay, what's your focus? What do you guys want to achieve? Do you want more people onboarded, so we'll push this out more? Or do you want less people onboarded? Like all these types of things. So you're kind of like the middle person of your customer, your business, and your tech.
So are you always looking for like ways to improve the process,
Yes.
either from the back end or the front end?
Absolutely. That's exactly it. You look at, okay, you'll see the data and you'll see, oh, there's a huge drop off on this question in a journey. So, okay, you'll identify that and be like, okay, how can I improve this? Is the wording wrong? Is the question even needed? Is there something unclear about this? Okay, how do we optimize? Do we go to the designers and say, actually, we need this question in pink or what have you? Or actually, we go to the back-end engineers and say, can we collect this information via API so we don't even need to ask the customer? They're the types of things that a product manager will think of, and then prioritize what they think will bring the most value to a customer and the business.
Okay. It's quite interesting then.
Yeah, I think so too.
No, it is, because when you're looking at data, even like from a business point of view, data is like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because we have to look at, for example, on our side, how many sellers are calling in, how many of them are getting converted. Then you look at, okay, why are they not getting converted? Is there something wrong in our?
Yeah.
Is there something wrong in our sales funnel, etc.? So it's similar, but you're obviously doing basically tech.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's why a lot of people's skills in any other job, you can apply it and leverage those skills if you wanted to work in tech as a product manager. Okay. That's like probably the smallest barrier to entry, because obviously if you wanted to be a developer or an engineer, you have to learn how to code. If you want to be a designer, you have to learn UX, UI design. As a product manager, the most important thing is your organization, your prioritization, and your soft skills. And you need as much information as you need to get the job done. So as much as I know about tech is all that I need to get the job done. If I need to know more, I'll have to learn, but I know enough to do what I need to do.
Okay, and then, so when you became product manager at HSBC,
Yes.
How was it?
Yeah, it was sick. Like very quickly I realized, this is something I enjoy. So I did a full year as a product manager, as a junior product manager / BA, business analyst. And then after that, the pandemic hit, which was difficult.
Right.
Because the recruitment was frozen. So I was still on the graduate scheme, even though I should have had a full-time permanent job, let's say. So they kept me on, but at the same salary, at the same level, which again was frustrating, but I understood what was happening. And then I did a stint in a digital engagement analyst role, and then I moved to M&S as a full-time product manager.
M&S and Marks Spencer?
Marks and Spencer's, yeah, man.
I thought you went straight from HSBC to...
I did a year at M&S, and then now where I'm at Wahed.
How was it working at M&S compared to the bank? Was it a complete different environment?
Oh man, it was so nice. So financial institutions, they're heavily regulated, whereas other industries, not as much. What made me realize, whoa, this is completely different is, when you work from home, when you work from a bank, you have to log into your VPN and get your access code, and then you log in and every file is locked. And then when I did the same for M&S, I went home and I was like, wait, it just connected automatically. And then I even messaged IT, said, something's wrong with my laptop, it connected straight away. Where's my VPN? Said, no, it's fine, man.
So didn't you start Muslim Census in lockdown
Yeah.
while you were working at M&S?
While I was working at HSBC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that start? And I remember seeing there was a WhatsApp message. Yo, I got an idea, let's link up.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
How did it start? How long did it take you to get to launch? And what was your journey through that?
Yeah. So we started a few months after the pandemic started. So, March, we all went into lockdown. And a few months after that, the government released a report that said ethnic minorities were 2 or 3 times likelier to die of COVID. And then the Labour Force survey came out and said that ethnic minorities were disproportionately impacted with regards to job loss. So there were these 2 very scary facts about ethnic minorities being disproportionately impacted. But I knew, because I was volunteering for a charity at the time, that Muslims were probably even more so impacted, right? But there was nothing to say how much so. And of course...
Why were Muslims more impacted?
Well, this is an assumption I had. Because, like I said, I was volunteering at the time. And we were seeing Muslims really struggling, losing work, so needing to rely on, let's say, food banks, needing to rely on support, applying for zakat. I knew this just from conversations and from anecdotal experiences.
There was no data.
There was no data. And also, a lot of charities and organizations, both Muslim and non-Muslim, were trying to provide and cater for Muslims without really knowing how to, because there was no data. So I felt like this was a real issue, a real problem. And that's when I dropped that message in the group chat. I said, guys, I've got an idea. Let's link up.
So when you dropped that message, what was your vision at the time?
It was I just wanted to soundboard. I just wanted to say, look, I think this is a problem. And I think we could do something to fix it. So we met up, and again, this was during lockdown, so we were obviously a meter.
You had a Zoom call.
We were a few meters apart. We actually met up in the park, and we brought a ball, and we were just doing keepy-uppies and passing off to each other whilst I was explaining the idea. And my co-founder now.
Did you actually meet in the park, or was it just
No, we actually met in the park. We took lockdown serious, man. Remember, this was before Eat Out to Help Out, where everyone was seriously scared. And so, we hashed out the idea, and I said, I think we can do this. I think we can have an idea and see where it goes. No way did we have a vision of a whole entire organization with, volunteers, revenue generating, nothing like that. We just felt like we could have an idea that could help Muslims, that could help provide data and insights to where our community needs it.
So the feedback you got from your friends, what was it?
It was positive. They were on board. So it was meant to be myself, Mohammed, and Naz. Unfortunately, Naz had time commitments, so then it was just myself and Mohammed. And what was cool is we had such polar opposite skill sets.
Opposites attract.
Yeah, he's someone that's very low key, not, doesn't want to be in front of a camera, doesn't want to speak to as many people, introverted, let's say. And I would describe myself as extroverted. And I had the math skills through my degree. I knew how to do statistics, statistical analysis, and report writing. And Mo was specialized in design and performance marketing and knew how to build a website. So it was perfect. We literally had everything we needed just in us two.
So what was the first thing you did after you and Mo decided, okay, let's do this? What was the first thing you did?
I started sharing my idea online, and started getting feedback from people that this idea would serve, and shared everything. Shared the logo or the logo designs that we had. Then we shared the website designs. Then we shared snippets of a potential survey or survey ideas. Then we shared analysis and how we would do it and the vision, and let them come along on the journey with us. And that's probably what really spiked the initial launch, because they've been seeing Sadiq and Mo talk about this for a month, and now it's here.
Did you get good feedback at the time?
Yeah, really, really positive. The only, obviously, like, there were concerns of, okay, make sure you're treating this with a lot of care. It's a trust that the community have upon you. Make sure you're rigorous with your analysis and your report writing. But on the whole, this was, oh, I can't believe no one's done this before. I can't believe this is going to be really important. And people were giving us, survey ideas and topics that they wanted to look into.
If I was to describe Muslim Census from what I know, I would say it's the Muslim version of YouGov.
Yeah, that's what we started with. Like, the easiest way to explain what we do is Muslim YouGov.
Did you get anyone that pushed back and said, you know what, it's not a good idea?
Yes.
What were their reasons?
It was more, not necessarily the idea, but the way we were trying to build out the idea.
Okay.
And these are like really big people, people that have created businesses in the millions, that disagreed with our approach, and felt like it was potential. We were looking at it wrong in terms of we should be going down a certain route into like driving for revenue generation rather than community impact. And, we took it as, nah, we want to focus on community impact. We can see that there's potential there, but we might get there. But what we want to do first, and the reason why I've had this idea and what's going to give me the zeal and passion to actually put time in, is if we do this. So that's what we did.
So for community impact, you had to create your own community, and then obviously have the backing of the community. And then how did you push the surveys?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you probably just started with, I think you did. It was just a Google form.
Exactly. I'm a big fan of not overcomplicating
Keep
things.
it simple.
Keep it simple. So many people, and since launching Muslim Census, a lot of people try and speak to me and share their ideas. They want to perfect everything. They've had this idea for years. They've had this idea for months. So when are you going to launch, right? When are you going to actually talk about what you're doing and start? And a lot of people feel hesitant to just start. And we from idea to launch took a month.
I think you're the third or fourth person who sat right there, said if you have an idea, just start.
Yeah.
Ish said it, TJ said it, Hugh said it. If you've got an idea, just start. Don't worry about... And I think Nafisa Bakr mentions it in her book. If you've got an idea, just start. Don't worry about the logo. Don't worry about the social media pages. Decide what you want to do. In your situation, it was community impact, and then just push in that direction.
Yeah, our first logo, or like our first brand colors. When we pushed it out, someone quote tweeted it on Twitter saying, "This looks like an MI5 front." Like, we got
Are
it.
You have to ask the question, innit?
And obviously, because looking back, it looks like an MI5 front. And now our website has people on it, myself on it, Mo on it. But before it was like a covert operation type. So you learn, but you only learn these things when you start. You cannot learn without it. Anything you do learn prior isn't tested, isn't validated. So you have to get to the place where, okay, what can I build with the minimum amount of effort in the quickest amount of time that serves the purpose of what I'm trying to do?
I think you're basically on a long journey, for example, with an A to Z map. And if you hit traffic, then it's like, okay, what's the side routes? But as long as it's going smoothly, you continue doing that.
Yeah. Because once you've launched, you're not saying, oh, this is it forever.
Yeah.
If you are saying that it's it forever, then you're doing something wrong. But you launch as your start and you build from there. And you'll gain traction, you'll gain following, you'll have impact from the beginning. And then you scale that. And it's worked. I think Muslim Census is a perfect example. We started off with a Google form, an unbranded Google form, like the purple background, an unbranded Google form, and a tweet off of my account.
Not even the original account.
Not even an original account. And from there, that report that started off with that Google form and a tweet is featured in The Guardian. So it's those kinds of things that really, for me, has proven, you start with your idea and build out what you think is the minimum that can serve that idea, and you see where it goes.
What was your first goal with Muslim Census after you released the Google form and the tweet? What was your first goal?
So we were looking at a really important topic, actually, which was anti-blackness in the Muslim community. And we wanted the goal for us was to highlight how important it is that we had data that validated assumptions or disproved assumptions. Too long have minority communities relied on, let's say, the government or established organizations that don't really know them that well, or anecdotes to decide everything that happens in their community. It's completely wrong, right? Whereas imagine having a homegrown grassroots led by the very people part of that community, providing insight, providing data to back up the things that are needed to be backed up.
What are some of your findings
Yeah.
that you would say you didn't know about before, but it's really important to be dealt with?
Yeah. So our second study was looking at the financial impact of COVID. And we found that Muslims, during the span of COVID, were 10 times likelier to fall into poverty due to the pandemic compared to the UK population. And it was really hard hitting, right? And we worked with National Zakat Foundation, which is one of the largest UK-based charities that serve the UK population in the UK. And they created a hardship relief fund off the back of our report. And people started donating their charity locally because of our report.
So what was the reason, would you say, that Muslims had or were facing a financial impact?
So notoriously, Muslims live in the most impoverished areas in the UK. Half of all Muslims live in the top 10% of most impoverished areas. But also, we are first gen, second gen, third gen, almost max in this country. And that comes with its own challenges. And there's many reasons. Even there's the education attainment gap that, again, is somewhat disproportionate for ethnic minorities in this country. And then we look at certain policies and procedures in place that might unfairly discriminate against.
Like?
To not get your podcast cancelled, I won't mention. But there are unique challenges that Muslims face in this country that lead to some of these statistics. And you only know when you know. And that's what we're trying to provide. We're trying to provide that color and data to the picture so that government, large NGOs, charities and what have you, organizations can actually be intentional with their response and actually tailor their response to support Muslims.
So do you think having this idea has worked? So Muslims are getting that tailored response?
Rome wasn't built in a day, but there have been some big wins, One of the biggest studies we've done since we launched was around student loans. I don't know if you saw it, where there was no alternative student finance option for Muslims that didn't want to take a student loan that contained interest. And David Cameron promised that this student loan alternative will be provided in 2013 and just went silent on it. And then a report that came out in 2019 said, oh, Muslims don't care about it. So we then launched our own study. We gained 40,000 responses from Muslims in this country. And we found that 4,000 Muslims per year don't go to university purely because of the loan. They just don't want to take a loan.
4,000?
4,000 per year.
10% of the people in the study.
Per year, they don't take out the loan. And then there's a further 6,000 that self-finance. So they go to university, but they self-finance because they don't want to take the loan.
And it's 30 grand at least they're paying, or they're financing.
Imagine, right? So once we found that data, that's when Muslim Census went it was an exponential rise in terms of, wow, Muslim Census is now really known. So we presented a letter to Boris Johnson, who was the PM at the time. We visited the Houses of Parliament and took part in discussions. Were quoted by ministers and MPs. We were featured in the Financial Times, The Independent, BBC. I spoke on their show. All of a sudden, everyone saw the value of a community having their own source of truth, backed by data. And last year, the government announced that they would introduce an alternative student finance based off of the study that we did. That's coming out in 2025.
Actually shows how important having data which you can back up is just to get results.
I think it's very difficult to get people that don't know what the problem is to understand the problem without data. Because what's the government's drive to look into this? There's only, I say only, but there's about 4 million Muslims in the UK. And we're kind of minding our own business, doing our own thing. And that's fine, but how do you go out and say, look, these are the issues that we need support with on a national level? And the way you do that is through data.
When did you first start getting noticed by the newspapers, by the media?
Our first report.
Straight away?
Yeah, I know. It worked out quite well that our first report caught the eyes of a journalist, and she was doing a piece for Black History Month. So we published that report in end of July, August-ish. And then that report featured in October in The Guardian. Of course, it was a delayed gratification almost. But I mean, from that, I spoke at so many different professional Muslim networks. I spoke at universities about this study. And then, of course, explaining who Muslim Census are as well. And then we did our financial impact of COVID study, where because of the first study, we had 2 people reach out to us and wanted to volunteer for Muslim Census. We didn't know who they were, but they reached out to us and said, I want to be a part of this. We didn't even know we wanted volunteers. We didn't even know we were going to build out a team.
So how did you manage that? Because then now it becomes a complete different challenge.
It's-
One's a Google form, now you've got people under you.
Yeah. So we actually ran the second study on a Google form as well, but it was branded this time. And now we had like 2 really good researchers. So I was now managing them. And again, it was a completely different dynamic. It was just like, wow, what is this, the potential of what we're building here? And when I realized that we really did have something, is in November we were commissioned and paid to do a study. And at the time, I didn't even know what to charge. I charged £1,000 for a study. So cheap, right? If you know about like market research. But, you know, I had to make a bank account, and all of a sudden we had £1,000 through our idea that we thought was just like, it was going to be one study and that's it almost. And then that's when we really like realized we might have something that can really drive change here.
Did you then switch up your focus, thinking, you know, this can be revenue generating? Or was it still no community impact? Or was it like a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. Like, we have this conversation all the time about how do we balance revenue generation and impact. So since we've launched, about 2.5 years, and the first half of the year we were just like new, so we didn't make anything. So I'd say in 2 years we've made about 50K in revenue, which, when you think that's not our sole purpose and we don't necessarily push that as much, it's not too bad.
No, it's good.
Right?
Considering that you got a full-time job, and I'm assuming molders as well.
Yeah. We both work.
How do you balance that?
Oh man, it comes with its challenges. But I always kind of think this is something I'm super passionate about, and my day job I'm super passionate about as well. So for the time being, I need to manage my time and make sure that I'm putting in the effort to grow myself and Muslim Census. And that's kind of how I like, it's hard. There are times where I might work 9 to 7, take a little bit of a break, and then do Muslim Census work or a call at 9, and that might go on till 11.
It's difficult to balance.
It's very difficult to balance. But I think it's, if you're passionate about something and if you want to make change, then you roll up your sleeves. Because no one's forcing me to do this. Like, no one's got a gun to my head saying you have to build out so-and-so. It's genuine passion.
I think it's, when you want to do something, it's just a want. But when you need to do something and you feel that the community needs an impact, it drives you a bit further.
Yeah. I think for me, it's somewhat spiritual as well, that transcends the kind of intention behind it, where I feel if I don't put in effort into Muslim Census and grow that and make sure that it's having impact in terms of benefiting lives, if I don't do this, I fear I won't have enough when it comes to after I die. I don't want to get all deep on it, but like that's a genuine fear of mine. If I let that go to waste, it will be very difficult for me.
What would you say is like your roadblocks or the difficult parts of running Muslim Census, apart from the work-life balance? But what would you say is a difficult part?
The difficult parts are mostly the admin and managing of Muslim Census. When I say that, admin is, managing the inbox, following leads, picking up from what's happening within the team, and then managing is actually, one-to-ones, checking in on the people that are in the comms team, checking in the people that are writing our reports, doing the research, our project managers, our head of research. That is probably the hardest thing, because the easiest thing for me is to think of ideas, to think of like new topics and surveys, and try and grow Muslim Census, I can do that, right? It's more like the maintaining.
It's implementation.
Yeah, not like the maintaining of what I've built, the day-to-day, making sure that the team are engaged and know what direction we're moving in.
So how do you keep your team engaged?
So we have like offsites, and we have weekly and monthly calls, and we get them involved in all different aspects, right? Whether that's having a stall at the Halal Expo, or going in and having a session with someone in the industry that we feel can benefit us, and they can talk about their experiences for an hour, 2 hours, and let our team learn from them. They're the kind of things that helps engagement.
What are some of the studies that you've been commissioned for, but not related to your original community impact in terms of like poverty or financial impact?
Yeah. So we've been like commissioned by some small startups that were trying to understand certain financial understanding of the Muslim community, to build out a product that serves them. So it's not necessarily community impact, it's to help this startup essentially get funding, which it did actually. But that's okay. That's like, we're happy to do it.
Yeah.
You know, if we feel like it's a good product, and if we feel like, yes, the intention is actually, yes, this will provide something that Muslims can use, then all good.
Have you had to turn down commissions because it didn't fit with your ethos?
Yes.
What kind?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to say.
I won't say the detail, but you know, we've had offers from organizations that don't necessarily align or serve Muslims in the way that we believe should be.
Yeah.
And you know, this is why it's good that I don't use this as like a sole income driver or anything like that, because I think when you get money involved, things get a bit hazy. But when like I've got that clear distinction that this isn't, yeah, I'm going to make the decisions that is right to protect the honor and dignity of people. So I'm not going to do this. So it's quite easy to say no matter what figure is offered.
What's the next step? Do you want to push it more as a business, or do you want to keep it simply just community?
So actually, I want to increase output and focus on the business side, because we've built a very good foundation and we've delivered community impact. It's now time to make this a sustainable project that is not going to be here for 5 years, 10 years, but for 50, 100. So that's the plan.
So what's the future of Muslim Census?
So the future is to keep going, but it's also to really focus on longevity. I think we've validated our idea. We've validated that we are people that are here to like try and benefit Muslims. So now with that kind of validation, we need to push the boundaries more. I actually want to build, I want Muslim Census to be that blueprint for other faith-based, ethnic minority or community-based organization to look at and say, this is how you build something and this is how you structure it for sustainability, longevity and impact. And I think we can do that. You know, I had a deep dive session with our head of research just last night, wrote it all on an A5 piece of paper, the business plan for Muslim Census, and it's getting me excited, because if we pull the right levers, we can grow quite quickly.
Can you share any secrets?
The secret is you have to put in the time. Like, when only now in that position because we've been very present for 2 years. 2 years is a short time as well, but some people will think 2 years is too long. We're only in this position now to start thinking about exponential growth because we've put in the hard yards for 2 whole years.
Exponential growth is a challenge in itself as well. And again, it's how you're going to manage your team, how you're going to manage your leads, and the whole thing has to come together for it to literally grow like that.
Yeah.
But I think you've got the base. And do you plan to get any funding?
Yes. So we're already like we have a revenue generating model. We work with charities, businesses, startups to support them in their like market or community research needs, and that comes of course at a cost. So we gain the sample, we do the analysis, we provide them a report, and we need to do more of that. I think we're in terms of time commitment, we say no to a lot, but if we're really actually like thinking that we want to do this, we need to do it. And then also we want to explore different types of how we actually showcase the work that we do. So not everyone is going to read a 15-page report, right?
Yeah.
Some people can barely even read a 500 word
You should do a
website.
like an audiobook.
An audiobook
Or audio report, yeah.
Or like 60-second video content, 30-second video content. A lot more usage of social media. So that's what we're going to like explore. So I've got like 2 main focuses for Muslim Census this year. It's to grow the awareness, and it's to grow the revenue. And they're both very like intertwined.
Okay. No, we've got, actually it's very insightful, learning about Muslim Census actually, and figuring out what you guys are doing, because I think when you initially started, a lot of it was COVID driven and financial poverty and the negative side.
Yeah.
There's also, you can help Muslim businesses start up, or those businesses who are targeted directly to Muslims, just with their research, and to give a founder basically confidence, saying, you know what, there is a market, go do it, or go get your funding.
I think this is for people that are worried that their idea only serves a niche, right? And I was worried about that as well. Like, we won't get that much traction because we only serve a very minority population of the entire like UK. But people come and like completely understand and resonate with the journey, with the mission. Like when we featured on the Forbes list, for example, that was something that I never expected Muslim Census to be on the Forbes list, right? Myself and Mo to be Forbes 30 under 30 for a community impact organization for Muslims. Like even saying that just sounds mental. But they were so supportive when we had like a few interviews with them when they were like shortlisting us. You could see their eyes glow like, oh, this is such a cool idea. So yeah, like be confident in serving your niche, and really commit to it.
Why do you think like Forbes, for example, were really supportive? Because we've probably hardly ever seen Muslims featured, or if we have, it's just directly related to business.
Yeah.
So why do you think they were so supportive? Is it because it's something they've never seen before?
I don't know. I know it's a bad answer, but from the discussions with the team at Forbes, they want to put like a spotlight on organizations that are making impact. And you know, the stuff that we did in our first year and a half, not many other organizations that are in their infancy could do. You know, we really like disrupted how the Muslim community looked at issues and problems. We provided data, which was, again, completely new, but then we portrayed that data through really cool designs and infographics, and we had like data dashboards on our website.
You have to dress it up, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we had like a social media presence. Like all of this is like new and foreign. It's happening more so now, but the stuff that we were looking at, organizations that were 30, 40, 50 years old were looking at. And they just weren't as agile as what we were doing.
I think you have that. I think you have the dynamic presence, because especially you're from that tech background, or Mo is anyway. Just to basically show the figures in a way that people look at it and say, you know what, there's a problem here, or there's a solution here.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up, we have a quick fire round.
Nice. I was waiting for this.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? It's got to be my mum's chicken and pumpkin.
Chicken and pumpkin?
Yeah, man. It's a crazy combination. It's like sweet and sour chicken, but 10 times better.
That's quite interesting. Is that a Bangladeshi dish, or is it just one she made up?
No, it's a traditional Bangladeshi dish. Chicken and khudu, that's what we call.
Oh, is that the other pumpkin, the big ones?
Yeah.
I can't remember where I was, and they brought one of them out. I think I was in a Bengali mosque, and they brought one of them out. I can't remember why, and they showed it in the front of the mosque, and I was
like
what is going on?
It's like prized possession,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Favorite holiday destination?
Favorite holiday destination? Again, I'll be super deep on this one, but it would have to be Palestine. I've been there 3 times.
We were meant to go together.
Yeah, we were meant to go together.
I haven't been yet. But
Inshallah, you go, because it's for me, it's the most peaceful place. Like, which is crazy. Like when you walk into the compound, the Aqsa, where Masjid al-Aqsa is, it's absolutely beautiful. It's so serene, and the people there are so nice.
The one where you went to Bosnia, that looked sick.
No, Bosnia is really cool as well.
I think you did a road trip, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Ibrahim from Dean Developers, he put his itinerary out on Notion.
Yeah. So that's what sold me. But it was like a whole Balkans trip, which was cool.
That's another trip I need to do.
Yeah.
Favorite day of the week? There's only one answer.
Monday.
Favorite football player?
Favorite football player? You know this, man. Jordan Henderson.
I'm trying to get cancelled.
No, man.
Final question. Where are Liverpool finishing this season?
Finishing? We're not finishing. We haven't even started. How are we going to finish?
Bottom half? Relegation?
I think a solid 11th.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. Sadiq, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. And
Thanks for having me, man.
I hope Muslim Census blows up in the next few years.
Inshallah.
I definitely see it's got legs.
No, thank you. Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.